Welcome to the Responsible Marketing Podcast, conversations about marketing, sustainability, and how we can all help in becoming more responsible organisations. I'm Jo, a marketing strategist and consultant, also flying the flag for a more sustainable and kind future for all. We're kicking off Season 5 with an absolute belter, talking to Matt Paneitz, Executive Director of Long Way Home. Absolute game changers for education, sustainability, and reutilising trash in Guatemala and beyond. Matt and I talk about his career from paramedic to the Peace Corps and not being able to leave Guatemala behind, the financial value of trash, how dreaming can extinguish barriers, and how punk might never have happened. I can't wait for you to hear about what Matt and the team have achieved and how they're slowly helping to educate the rest of the world. So without any more delay, let's dive straight in. Hi everyone and welcome to the podcast. It's been a while, but we're back. And my very first guest of this season is the phenomenal Matt Paneitz. Hi, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks.
Good. Thank you so much for dialing in. I know it's early your side. Tell me where you are again.
I'm in Brooklyn right now.
Oh, you're in Brooklyn. Oh, I thought you were going to say Guatemala after all. But Brooklyn's also quite cool, right? So across the Atlantic. So yeah, I appreciate you getting up probably a little bit earlier maybe than normal and stuff. But so thank you for coming on the podcast. Just for listeners, I didn't know anything about the company that you founded until obviously you got in touch, which was amazing. And now I'm a massive fan already, and I can't wait to get talking about it. So could you, for my listeners and watchers, just introduce yourself and explain a bit about your background, what jobs you've had, and how you found yourself to Long Way Home?
Sure, here goes. So, I was raised in Texas and lived a pretty normal suburban East Texas life. And then I became a paramedic and ran 911, did emergency calls. And then one day I decided to join the Peace Corps. And that took me to Guatemala. And that was the first time I'd ever really considered such a thing, right? I'd never really traveled outside of the US very much. Like I'd been to Mexico or, a couple of times, but never really traveled much. And that changed my entire life because when I went to Guatemala, I saw things that I did not know were in existence. Like there's poverty in America, but it's quite different in Guatemala. And I saw a lot of people struggling and suffering, and that made me want to spend the rest of my life doing something about it. So while I was there, you asked about my education. I got a bachelor's degree in sustainability because there's a lot of quiet nights, right? There's not much to do in the evening. So you end up reading a bunch of books, and it's like, well, if I'm going to read all these books, might as well get some credit for reading some of these books.
Yeah,
So then I also got a master's in philosophy of education.
Wow.
And now I'm turning the corner on a doctorate in education.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on all of that. That's quite a thing. Because I mean, I can't believe you have many, well, you maybe do have quiet nights now, but you're clearly very, very busy during the day. So tell us about Long Way Home. What happens? How did that come about?
Yeah, so as I was a Peace Corps volunteer, my project was called Rural Youth at Risk. And what I did was start football teams with the local youth. And we went to an old soccer field that was kind of abandoned where the grass was really high. And I hung out with the kids and we made little, soccer uniforms and invited some neighboring teams to play. And I made friends and I got to know people there, and I really liked the small rural Guatemalan town. Then I moved back to America after my service was over, and I tried to live a normal life, right? I enrolled back in school and got a job and I thought that I could leave everything behind. And it was kind of always there. It was always present. Everything that I'd seen was like right in front of me. And so I went to the library, got a paper application to start a nonprofit organization. I went through the application little by little. The first questions, what's the name of your organization? And so I looked through my CDs for song titles, and
Oh,
that's where the name came from. Was a
I
country
love that.
music song by a singer called Dwight Yoakam
Okay.
that really called out to me. And then I, little by little, and then I sold all of my belongings. I raffled my 1973 Caprice Classic convertible so we would have some money to start off with. Bought a
Wow.
$500 Volkswagen Jetta where the sunroof didn't work, and drove from Oregon back down to Guatemala with a couple of friends of mine.
Uh-huh.
And first of all, we built a city park. And that was because I knew that there was no really good pitch there. And so I wanted to build the first grass field
Yeah, of
in the history of this town. And of course, that made everybody love us because
course.
it's a football town and there was no grass pitch there.
Oh my
So
goodness.
then the students started coming and the politicians and the painters. Like every day, the park was filled with people.
Amazing.
And then that made us want to move beyond recreation and beyond building this park. And that's kind of where Long Way Home was born, because volunteers started coming. I had never started a nonprofit organization. It was all being made up at the time. I didn't know what a board of directors was or a business plan or anything like that. I had passion, right?
Yeah.
I had a lot of care, and
Yeah.
then other people with strong technical backgrounds came along and helped assemble the organization. And that's kind of why we are who we are now.
Yeah, it's
Volunteers.
what an amazing story. I mean, you have got I didn't know about your background actually until you just told us about that. And you've clearly got a massive heart and it shows, it's quite an incredible just proposition long way home. It's clearly made a massive difference. I've watched lots of videos and things that you've got on your website and everything else. And it's an amazing story to watch unfold really. So you said about obviously your qualification in sustainability, but that can't be where you learn how to build with waste materials, right? So you seem to use any waste material possible and use it to build something or other. So they're not standard. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so like in high school and college, I wasn't very good at waiting tables, and I'm not very good at retail. So my preference was to do construction work
Mm-hmm.
and to make money to, make ends meet. And so that's where I ever had any history in construction. And then whenever we finished building the park, and I said to the co-founder, I'd like to scale things up. And I said, I'd like to build a school. He said, have you ever heard of building a school out of trash? And I said, no, I've never heard of such a thing. And then he shows me this book, and this book is like step by step instructions on how to build a house using tires.
Wow.
Right. And so we put the book on the ground, did step one, step two. And the steps are put dirt in a tire and pack the dirt with a sledgehammer.
Okay.
Right? Where you would think that people would hear that and be like, no way am I going to spend 8 hours a day swinging a sledgehammer. We loved it for some
Really?
strange reason. We thought it was amazing and really enjoyed it. And then the volunteers enjoyed it. And then
Yeah.
the locals enjoyed it. And we
Yeah.
were also sort of, obsessive compulsive in the sense that there's trash all over the place and we wanted to clean it up, but we didn't have anywhere to put it. And we didn't, because they don't have a trash removal system.
Yeah.
And we were producing trash and we didn't want to burn it or throw it in the river, which is what a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
So we started being able to put all of our trash in plastic bottles. We started charging to get into the park. We started charging people trash to get into the park. They started bringing us cans and bottles. So the community started bringing their trash. We started using our trash. And then in 2009, we bought land and we said, let's turn all of this trash into an entire school campus.
Yeah. And it's phenomenal. The photos and the plans I've seen, it must have made such a difference. And what was interesting, obviously, you said about why Guatemala, and I kind of understand that storyline now. But, were you well received when you went back? Did they welcome you with open arms, or were they just maybe because you're a different culture. You're an outsider coming in. There could have been some pushback without them realizing, hopefully, the good that you were going to do. I mean, clearly the football pitch was going to be a winner, right? So that's a good
Right.
start.
Yeah, that was a good way to open the door.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we, we sort of stick out, right?
Yeah.
We don't look the same as
Uh-huh.
everybody else there. I'm kind of tall, and so yeah, you know, everybody was wonderful because the Guatemalans, in a lot of ways, were every bit as curious about us as we were about them.
Mm.
And also, the people are really kind, like it's a small farming community. Most people grow maize, and that is the cornerstone of their diet. And small farmers are the nicest people on earth. If they have one piece of bread, they will break it in half and give you half,
Yeah.
right? They invite you into their homes. They invited us to birthday parties and weddings and graduations and tried to teach me how to dance, even though that didn't go very well. Like everybody was wonderful.
Amazing.
And what they saw from us was that we were willing to work hard,
Yeah.
right? We were up at 5 a.m., shovels in hand, so that whenever people saw us, we were working and working hard. And then we were working until 7 p.m. So
Mm.
we developed a reputation of hardworking people, and they're hardworking people. And so there was a mutual respect that developed around that, even to the point where the Guatemalans were like, slow down, guys. All right,
Take a
you're
break.
working too hard.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love the fact that they're so inquisitive. And actually, on the again, going back to the films you've got on the website, there's a really lovely bit about obviously they've kind of had an input into the education that's being delivered at the school that you've built and things like that. So it's still keeping it kind of in line with what they believe in and their own lifestyle. It's not that you come in and made, I don't know, give them the American way or the American schooling system or an international schooling system. It's their way of thinking. It's their knowledge and education that they need to carry on within their own culture, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's a big question, right? Is are we coming in and imposing something?
Yeah.
And the cool thing about building with trash is it doesn't really belong to any culture,
Mm.
right? It's not anybody's anything. And so, but it is part of their values to protect the environment, right?
Yeah.
But that's
Okay.
a lot of people's values to protect the environment. And they saw that we were doing everything we could to protect the environment. And that aligned. And then as far as the education system goes, a lot of what is being taught is based on the national education system curriculum, right? And then whenever we started shifting that and going, okay, well, let's use subject matter to deal with some of the issues that are going along in the town,
Mm.
well, that aligned with the national education system competency based
Ah,
system,
okay.
right? Because the competency based system provides a little bit of leg room for people to interpret. And so the teachers were like, oh, cool, we can use subject matter to improve living conditions in our town for the people who are cooking over open flames indoors and
Mm.
don't have water in their
Yeah.
houses. And so we can all work together. That aligned with everybody's values, right? That
Yeah.
aligned with their history and what we were interested in. And it's something that a group of people can easily get together, no matter what your culture is worldwide, and go, okay, let's work together.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a very nice and good news story in a world that perhaps doesn't do that a lot of the time right now. Certainly in the Western society. I shouldn't say that's everywhere, but it's just a really nice story, isn't it? For sure. And you mentioned about so you were 18 staff there, I think. Is that right, still?
Well, and in fact, now we have 25 teachers
Wow.
and 5 or 6 green builders, consistently 5 to 6 volunteers. And so, yeah, we've got a pretty big team that's moving.
Yeah. And those volunteers, are they from all over the world or are they from the US or?
Yeah, right now we have a Peruvian volunteer, a German volunteer, a Swiss volunteer, a
Hmm.
French volunteer, and then there will be a couple of Americans coming in the following week. But yeah, people come from all over the world because what we're offering is an exchange, right? people pay us $85 a week, which is a
Yeah.
pretty reasonable rate, and that's how we pay for what we do. That's how we pay the teacher salaries and everything else that happens there. And then the exchange is that people get to learn sustainable living techniques, because our campus isn't, brick and mortar in the sense that you put up a bunch of cinder blocks and then people learn construction. We're teaching also how to harvest water, right? How to do thermal mass, because the walls are really thick and the buildings maintain a constant temperature inside, which is a nice temperature. And we do some solar, and we're teaching how to use earthen materials. So there's an exchange happening there that
Mm.
draws people. Also, people come from inside Guatemala as well to come and learn. People bring entire schools for the day. Like, our site
Wow.
is a field trip site for other schools to come and learn. And so that's, in addition to teaching the youth and the primary, middle, and high school age kids, we're
Mm.
also teaching people from around the world how to live a better life.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to, so my son's 17, and I was saying to him about your project, and I said to him, like, him and his best mate, I said, you two would just love what they're doing, because they love getting their hands dirty, but they're quite logical. And so I read a bit of like bump on your website about, you love people with ideas, because then you can like throw ideas at a challenge, and then whichever idea comes out best, obviously you guys can work on, and things like that. And it's really lit a bit of a fire in them. They're quite intrigued by it. So I said I was obviously speaking to you today. So I'm hoping they'll listen to the podcast, and they will maybe see you in a couple of years' time, or 18 months' time, maybe, as part of their kind of round the world travels, or whatever they want to do after their high school kind of stage has finished. So yeah, it's a phenomenal opportunity, I think, for volunteers, as well as, like you say, the local people as well in Guatemala.
Yeah, and that's a lot of who comes,
Mm,
are people who don't want to quite go into college yet, right after
yeah.
high school, and they want to spend a little time out on the road. And then a lot of people who want to do tourist stuff, well, they don't only want to do tourists. They want
Mm,
to, like, if you go to tourist towns in countries, you don't necessarily see and, get to experience the local culture all that well. Well, if you come to our site, that's specifically what you get to do, is you get
yeah.
to immerse yourself in the local culture and experience a small town,
Yeah.
right? And then, a lot of people will take a break from college or take a break from work and spend
Yeah.
anywhere from a week to 7 years with us.
Yeah. Oh gosh, up to 7 years. That's amazing.
We've had volunteers stay for a really long time
Wow.
because
So
they
I
are
might ship him off
interested
to
in
you. I
doing
might never see him again. He'll be
Yeah,
with you forever,
exactly.
maybe. Who knows?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was quite intrigued by Roberto. He's on your website. He's on a little film on
Mhm.
your website. Roberto and his family. Who came first, Roberto or Matt?
Roberto's from there, and in
Yeah.
fact, his dad has a painting in the Smithsonian. His dad
Oh,
painted the world famous chicken bus painting,
wow.
and his dad has come out and painted Boris a couple of times. And Roberto's an artist as well, and his kids
Mm.
go to our school. So yeah, he came first.
Yeah, he came first. So yeah, definitely chicken bus then, not the
Yeah,
egg bus.
yeah, that's
Yeah, he
right.
seems quite a character. And again, I loved it because it really shows the kind of characters that you're dealing with, and the just the area of the world, I think, that it is. Like you said, extreme poverty in comparison to much of what we see, as in you and I, Western world, day to day. But yeah, it's quite phenomenal. And did you, so the school, when you say school, I've looked at it, it's like 18 buildings,
Hmm, hmm.
fairly small buildings. They're not, massive skyscraper type things, but they're small, but it's a complex and it's quite substantial. So that holds around 180 students. So did you imagine that at the beginning of all this? Like when you went back out to the footy pitch, is that what you imagined that was going to happen?
We were dreaming. So we were reaching for the stars and land on the moon kind of an approach, right?
Yeah.
And when you're dreaming, right, you have a picture that you're hoping to get to, and that is like all of the students in the school rising up to go out into the town to support the people that need us most. And
Yeah.
so We had a rough idea of a sketch of what might happen in our heads, and, in a sense, probably bit off more than we could chew because we weren't like smart enough to know what we couldn't do.
Okay.
Right?
Well,
We
that's
didn't
not a bad
know.
thing though, because then that's barriers straight away, isn't it? So,
Right, right. We
yeah.
didn't know our limitations, so we have kept going. And like, so I'm going to go to Guatemala in about a week or about 2 weeks. And no, yeah, it's a week from now. And that the culmination of what I think is best about us is all going to happen from the 18th to the 22nd. And that is when we're going to build 6 stoves. When I say we, the students will leave the classroom. They've
Yeah.
been in the classroom preparing. They're going to leave the classroom and they're going to build 6 stoves and 3 water tanks and a compost latrine and a retaining wall, all for families in need.
Mm,
Engineers Without Borders is also being there, and they're installing a water project for an entire village,
yeah.
right? Because of the connections that Long Way Home has, they have access to entire villages. And then WADA, they're going to distribute 200 filters. We also build floors. So all of this will happen in a week. And no, I did not dream that. Like we knew something might come from all of this effort, but that everybody would be there together doing so much good in such a tricky time in the world right now
Yeah.
makes my heart sing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it must be phenomenal when even when one stove is built, never mind six and all the water and the irrigation and the filtering and everything else. So you mentioned obviously about some of the school attendees going back out into the village to build literally equipment and living materials. Is that what normally happens? Do they kind of go from your school out into their own local community and they stay there, or do you find they go further afield and educate other communities? What happens there?
Yes, our education model is set up in such a way that the students cannot spend all the time outside of the classroom
Mm,
and be in the field constantly building stuff. So the idea is that, like in math class, rather than learning abstract math and that kids sometimes hate and get bored with,
yeah.
we said, hey, let's take math and learn how to build a stove for a family. Let's use that math to learn how to build a water tank or a compost latrine or an arch over a doorway or a vault on a roof, right? And so they're in the classroom prior to this May trip out into the field, learning the materials and experience, and thinking about what's going to happen.
Mm,
Then they will do all of the implementation.
mm,
And then a big portion of the rest of the year is dedicated to documenting that work. And
okay.
then what comes a result of documenting and us putting it on our website is that other people from around the world will sometimes call us and go, wow, I saw what you did. Can you tell me more about that? And then we document it extensively, which makes it easier for other people to do it. And then occasionally, sometimes people will invite us over. Like we spent 6 months working on an orphanage in South Africa, and we've been to Venezuela and Colombia and a few other places because people would like to know how to do this.
Yeah, yeah, it's big news, right? And it works. The
Yeah.
proof is there. So if people are hearing about it, so I wanted to come on to some recognition because obviously you've had some pretty impressive eyes on you, I would say, really. Not that it should be a surprise, but UNESCO and also TIAN, which I'd not heard of, the International Alliance for Women. They awarded you the World of Difference Award. So have they helped you with your exposure and getting your message out and maybe getting more support as well financially as a, not for profit? That's not going to be easy to come by either.
Yeah, this has been wonderful what they've done.
Mm,
They put us on their website, they give us awards, they hold ceremonies, and it's during this time that people become aware that we even exist because it's not like we have some gigantic marketing budget where we can run a whole bunch of ads or we have a very small marketing budget.
yeah.
And but it's through those awards and through that recognition, I think, that is easiest to find out that we exist at all, or what we've done while we've been in existence.
Definitely. So this isn't an inexhaustible project then for a long way home. Like you clearly mentioned about being invited over to Venezuela, for example, and South Africa and places like that. So are you still planning to expand and scale within Guatemala or internationally, or how's that platform going to work for you?
Well, we're going to remain available to travel throughout the world and show people how we do what we do. And but our focus now is on improving the quality of the education, because what we've seen is that we can come up with all these techniques, right? And then if we don't create some systematic form by which they can be used,
Mm.
then they might not be so easily accessible, and especially for school kids, because the average school lesson plan does not include any of this for most places. So there's a whole bunch of work that has to be done to go, okay, here is how to build an arch over a doorway. And I want to use that in math class. But
Mm.
what are the actual broken down steps that you would use to turn that into a lesson plan so that students can actually work with it? That's the next big lift for us.
Yeah.
And that's where we've made a lot of progress recently. And we're currently building a learning management system that will take that lesson plan and can apply it hopefully to any set of national curriculum standards, at least in Latin America for now. But with AI the way it is, we could probably make it possible to, you know, go beyond Latin
Yeah,
America.
for sure. And I think there's definitely, I mean, probably very naive brain speaking here, but you know, so with my kids, but my kids are still teenagers, but they've been through the school main schooling process so far. But my son's still at the back end of that. And they find their lessons so boring because it's taught so traditionally still. So they don't see any application for algebra. They don't see any application for a lot of physics, to be fair, all that kind of stuff, you know, and there's no layering of, unless you've got an amazing teacher that has that ability to kind of almost transcribe kind of like the physical algebra to something really more practical in life, then you don't understand why it's important or why it's relevant until you end up maybe doing something like you're doing. So I think there's definitely scope for educations all over the world, education systems, to be open to something like this and hopefully try and make it work. It'd be amazing.
You know, I would almost go as far as to say that if had there been practical applications of, typical educational subject matter, that maybe there wouldn't have been a punk scene, right? What
Maybe.
what would Pink Floyd have been singing about?
That's
you
true.
know,
Yeah, maybe that's a bad
it's
idea then.
what would Pink Floyd have been singing about if school wasn't awful?
That's true. That's
So
very
yeah,
true.
I hope we don't ruin it for the amazing musicians that have built off of that tradition of school being boring.
Yeah, I think they got plenty of other stuff to talk about now, not just school. I think that's the thing. So yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully, maybe they could sing about positive stuff to do with school for a
that's,
change.
that's right. Yeah.
Matt, it's been so lovely having you on the podcast. I ask all my guests for a book recommendation. Obviously, you mentioned a book about building a house with tires. I don't know if that's one you want to recommend, as well as something else, or you got something else in your back pocket.
Yeah, the book is called Earthship Biotecture Volume 1,
Wow,
right?
quite a
And
title.
yeah, exactly. That is a really cool book that will lead you into it. We also wrote a book called The Green Building Manual,
Oh,
and it takes you through step-by-step instructions on how to do it. It's available on our website, or, I can also send a digital form. And then Democracy and Education by John Dewey. He's
okay.
an educational philosopher, and that has helped us shape the concept of us all working together.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And then
Mhm.
last but very much not least, where can people find you, find Long Way Home, the program, volunteer, donate, whatever you wish to request of the people who are listening and watching? What can they do to help you or help themselves?
Yeah, we want volunteers. So you can go to lwhome.org, and you can also donate there on the homepage. There is a link directly to donate. And my email address is matt@lwhome.org. I usually respond within 30 seconds, right? We're a small nonprofit that's trying to do big things, and there's a lot of brilliant, wonderful people out there in every walk of life. So we need all of your help in every imaginable way. You're all welcome to come and join and work with us.
Amazing.
We look forward to it.
Yeah, well, I hope you do get some contact from this podcast, and I'll be sharing this wherever I can do, because the Long Way Home is just an incredible setup. You've come so far. It's so crazy. So how long have you been going? 12 years, 14 years?
This is our 22nd year.
22nd year. Oh, I don't know how I've miscalculated that. 22nd years. So that's quite impressive in itself, I think. So yeah, absolutely. I hope you continue the growth on this and the amazing impact that you're having. Thank you so much for your time again and getting up early to speak with me. And I hope very much that we can be in contact soon and see much more of what you've done.
I really appreciate the opportunity to share our story, and thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you too. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And to listeners and watchers out there, see you next time. Thank you so much for listening and watching the Responsible Marketing Podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please hit the subscribe button wherever you get your podcast from. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe there too. I also love to get reviews, as they make a huge difference to others discovering the show. So please leave a review, any comments or questions on whichever platform you prefer. And of course, feel free to share out your socials with your friends and your colleagues. If you want to contact me direct, you can email joe@jolongconsulting.com or find me on LinkedIn under my own name, Joe Long. Until next time, thanks for listening and for watching.